started, right? Okay, great. Well, ciao, everyone. I just want to say today is a very special, happy day. All of our astronauts returned after months of being out there and being worried about them. So let's hear it for the American astronauts, right? All right. I just want to start by saying I don't think we ever want to hear enough about the subject of aging buildings, if you're in one for sure. Just because the laws were implemented last year to make them more stringent and to make them more widespread, because I think some counties didn't even have these guidelines, that doesn't mean that we don't stop initiating the milestone inspections concept. We can also implement maintenance best practices, and those should be scheduled routinely as well. Anything that can be done to avoid a surfside incident should be considered. And going forward, and today's presentation by Hector Velasquez, he's with Karins Engineering. He's going to give you some insight as to what to do going forward. So let's get started with some housekeeping. I am Peggy West. I'm the organizer of the webinars. This is a 2-hour webinar, and it's going to give 2 CEU credits to the property managers that are on today. If you have a question, please put it in the question and answer Q&A box. If you have a comment, put it into the chat box, and the sponsors will go ahead and put their contact information in as well. CAMs, I want to ask you to please allow 2 to 3 weeks to have your CEU credits posted to the DBPR records. It does take a little bit of time, and today we have over 200, almost 250 guests, and it's going to just take some time for them to get posted. After the meeting, following the meeting, there is a sponsor sheet that's sent out. It will have every sponsor on there, their contact information with their phone numbers and emails. So they're going to introduce themselves here, but you don't have to worry about writing everything down. We will also be sending out the slides, and Hector is allowing us to record this, and you can give that or show that to your boards if you want to for future reference. So let's get ready and let's meet the sponsors. I first want to introduce what I say the winds beneath my wings is Vinteum software. We have Katie Bassford on. She's the national account manager, and please tell us what you do. It's very important.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction, Peggy. As Peggy mentioned, my name is Katie. I am the national account rep, so I work with clients across the U.S. But here at Vinteum, we do have a particular focus in Florida. We provide HOA and condo management software. So this is going to allow you to have a website for your association, a private resident portal where you can communicate with residents, share information, and it is 100% compliant with all of the requirements for Florida websites for community associations. So I would love to chat if your association needs that presence. If you need a little bit of help in terms of streamlining communication, would love to get a live demonstration scheduled that's a little bit more personalized for your community. So please feel free to reach out. I would love to chat. We are running a March Madness sale this month as well. So keep in mind that we have some really good deals if you book your demo by the end of March.
Okay, Katie, thank you for that. I also want to make honorable mention of a couple people at Vinteum that are my wind also beneath my wings. We have Julia Alves, if you could just wave. She's the new marketing manager. She's doing an outstanding job. I also have Beatrice De Silva. I can hear her in the background. Beatrice, you want to wave or say hello? She is also a marketing manager. And then I also want to introduce their manager, who is the International Sales and Marketing Manager, Hercules Messino. If you're not all on today, please tell your Tim thank you again. Next, I want to introduce our moderator today is Ben Friedman. He's the president of City Quiet Windows and Doors. Ben, tell us about yourself and the company.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben Friedman. I am the president of City Quiet Windows and Doors. Here at City Quiet, we provide turnkey white glove installation for all window, door, storefront, and railing projects. I always enjoy listening to engineers talk about the milestone inspection because there's always a lot of crazy questions that I get with regard to whose responsibility certain things are when it comes to window and door replacements. So I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation today, and I'll be your moderator. So feel free to put questions in the Q&A that I'll be monitoring, and any comments you have in the chat.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Ben. And all these people that I'm presenting today as sponsors are well known in the industry and have a great reputation. Next, I want to introduce Bob Aleka. Is Bob on? Let's see. I don't see Bob on as yet. Okay. Bob Aleka is the Vice President of Community Associations. He's with Faster IO. And also his partner in crime, I say, is Michael Zirin. He's the Vice President of Marketing. They will also be on the sponsor sheet, and they are doing live streaming or streaming products in place of cable and so on. So if you need some help there, you're up for renewal, please contact Bob. Next, I want to introduce Moshe Aronov. He's the partner of our managing partner with Greener Path Retirement Planning. Moshe, tell us about yourself and what you guys do.
Thank you, Peggy, very much for the introduction. My name is Moshe Aronov, Greener Path Retirement Planning. We are a financial institution, help everyone with financial planning. For these meetings, though, I am just to let you know, I'm 30 years in the business already. I am been on a couple of boards of several buildings back in New York City, so I do know a little bit of that. And one of the most important things for boards is to preserve their capital and get a little bit better interest. And that's something that we specialize in, where CD rates are around 3 to 4%. We offer on the money that you're holding in reserves anywhere from 7 to 10%. That's one of our specialties. And we could also help some of the board members or anybody in the any of the people who live in the buildings with their financial plans. Again, my name is Moshe Aronov, and we have offices in Boca Raton and Fort Lauderdale area. Thank you, Peggy.
Okay, great. That is a new product for my webinars. I had not had financial planners in the past, but I've had requests. So I'm glad, Moshe, you were able to fill that position. Next, I want to introduce Daniel Pina. He is the president of PD Concrete. Daniel, tell us about yourself and what do you guys do?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm the project manager with PD Concrete Specialist. We are specialized in concrete restoration, post-tension repair, painting, and waterproofing. We've been in business for over 20 years, running from 2 offices, one in West Palm Beach and one in Ventura. We are providing all the services regarding concrete restoration. We work with multiple engineering firms currently in the 3 counties. And we also offering project management services in terms of budget analysis, scheduling. I'll be happy to answer any question. If you leave it in the comment section, I'll be looking at it. And thank you so much for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Okay, next let's go on and introduce Diana Olert. Diana, she is with Best Roofing. She is the senior business developer and a rock star in this industry. So Diana, tell us about yourself and about your company.
Thank you so much, Peggy, for the kind words. As Peggy said, I'm the business development at Best. Best has been in business for 46 years. We cover Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade. And we do anything and everything on your roof. We're now doing residential as well. We do new construction, we do re-roof, recovery, maintenance programs. Even if you have a simple question or inspection, we'll be here for you. We want to be your roofer of election. I want to be there for anything that you need. So if you need anything or if you have a question, please contact me. I would be more than happy to educate you and help you to make the right decision on your roof. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. I also want to mention one of her outstanding reps, Cameron, as well. I don't know if he was able to be on today, but if you can't get Diane, ask for Cameron. He's right there in line with great service, great appointment setting, and so on. And they do an awesome job. Next, I want to introduce Daniel Baum. He's the founder and CEO of COA Solutions. great things to say. Daniel, tell us about yourself and what you do.
Thanks, Peggy. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. As Peggy said, my name is Daniel Baum. I'm the founder of COA Solutions of Florida. My job is to help you find savings on your commercial property and casualty insurance. I know that's a big topic we're all talking about. It's usually the biggest line item on most communities' budgets, and it's usually the one that creates the most havoc amongst communities with trying to raise the money for those budgets. The good news is on the insurance front this year, property carriers are competing with each other. There are more carriers than they have been in the last 3 years, and we are seeing the price of property coverage come down. So that's something you should be looking for on your renewals. Same with the general liability. There have been considerable savings on general liability this year. I will say on the opposite, directors and officers has been going up, mainly because of some of the issues that have gone on, the fraud claims. You guys have read a lot about that, I'm sure, in the news lately. But at the end of the day, the two most expensive policies, property and general liability, you guys should be seeing a reduction in. If you're not, please feel free to give me a call. I'd be happy to review your policies with you. I don't ask you to sign anything, no agent of record letters, just happy to review it with you and let you know my thoughts. That said, I wish you a wonderful webinar and I hope you learn a lot, and thank you for joining us. Peggy?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you're very different and unique, and you should at least talk to them. It's worth the conversation. Next, I want to introduce Hafer Company. The partner and operations director is Nicole Johnson. They have 4 offices around the state. I don't see them on, so I'm going to do this brief introduction. They also have a new partner, Mark Landez. He is an auditor, does another outstanding job. He came from a very reputable company with his past. So if you need anything related to that, please give them a call. Next, I want to also mention Jamie Gelfand. She's the regional director for products, loans, boxes, everything having to do with banking. She's with First Citizens Bank. I don't think she's going to be able to get on. Let me just double check. Everybody does their own introductions better than I do, trust me. But anyway, great bank to refer to. And then lastly, I'm just going to mention myself. I have a new website called Florida Condo Vendors for You. I'm trying to connect all my sponsors and any vendors around the state to you as board members and property managers for another source, especially since the law changed last year where you have to take 3 bids, anything that's over 5% of your budget. So check it out and see if we can help you. Now I want to go into the introduction of Hector Velasquez Abreu. He's a engineer for Karins Engineering, and I'm not sure, are you also a principal? Tell us about yourself.
So good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's doing great. I am Hector Velasquez. I'm one of the PEs for the company. I'm not a principal. I am the East Coast Regional Manager for the company. I oversee 3 offices at this moment on the East Coast, but we have offices all around Florida to assist any association.
Okay, with that, let's just go on into your presentation. You want to pop up your slides?
Sure. Let's see here.
Thank you.
Let's see if this works now. Can you see that? Share. There we go. Can you see the presentation?
There you go. Yes. Okay. All right.
Let me see. Okay, so
Ben's your moderator today, so
It's all yours, Hector. Take it away.
thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So like I said, we're Karins Engineering. We are all around Florida. We got 9 offices around Florida. I'm one of the PEs for the company. I work on the East Coast. And today we're going to talk about physical properties to mitigate and manage the deterioration of aging buildings. The good, the bad, and the disasters, right? We all have been through disasters and we don't want to get there. So let's get on with the course objective. Today, we're going to be talking about provide a basic understanding of the means available to community association managers to evaluate the existing condition of structural components and waterproofing elements of association buildings. It will identify primary form of deterioration and distress, specific type of corrosion, discussion of post-tension, which is a newer, bigger topic nowadays, the pros and cons about PTs, as well as provide discussion regarding long-term maintenance, solutions, methods to plan a successful preventive maintenance projects toward a successful and sustainable outcome for buildings and properties. So what are the requirements for aging gratefully, right? Either we want to be the guy to the left, which is aging gratefully, or the guy to the right, which is kind of where I'm turning to. I should be aging a little bit better than what I am right now. So where do we want to go with our buildings? If we do proper maintenance, if we evaluate a building like a person, we want to do exercise. We want to eat right. We want to move. We want to be active, right? On a building, you do the same thing. You do proactive maintenance to the building so it can age properly. If you don't, then you're going to be looking like the guy to the right. It's a guy that probably drinks, probably doesn't do any exercise, probably just sitting around all day, and it deteriorates a lot faster. Structures, like I said, are like people. They can maintain their good health, age, if properly cared for, examined periodically as part of their preventative care, and examine closely when exhibit sign of distress. And we're going to show a couple of pictures about distress and what association manager can do for their building, including their maintenance. We're going to have a plan for that today. Like people, all structures deteriorate with time. If you have a parking garage, you're going to have car loading coming in, coming out. You're going to have heavier equipment that was originally probably designed for. Those kind of things put stress on a building, and that kind of movement creates some kind of deterioration on the building. Exposure to the elements. We live in Florida. We get hit by hurricanes almost every single year, right? Either on the left of Florida or the right of Florida, we all get hit at one point or another. Not in addition to that, you can count on weather change. Sometimes we got, and right now in Fort Lauderdale, we were 55 degrees this morning, and we're going to go up to the 80s. That causes the material to move because it will shrink and will expand, right? Those are kind of exposure to the element situations that your building go through. Aging of material as everything else, and like probably all of you have learned so far, we go through a life cycle of material, right? What is the life expectancy of those materials? What is the life expectancy of your paint, on your waterproofing, on your roof? Those are aging of our material that protect our building. Wear and tear from normal use. That will be if you go to your walkway, how many people go out to the elevator? Usually when you go to a building, you will see that elevator area is beat up versus the farther away from the elevator looks a little bit more pristine, right? That is because it's wear and tear. People are coming in and out every single time, every single area. That creates an abuse on the building as well. Inadequate maintenance, exposure to severe weather, like we talked before. Inadequate maintenance will be, hey, I know I got a patch there. Instead of calling a reputable contractor, no, let's find something on Home Depot and put it there and cover it up, and that's it. That will continue to deteriorate the building and will cause strength reduction on the building, which is something that we don't want. And most of our panelists here do not want either, to be affronted with that as well. All structures deteriorate with time. On hurricane seasons, we got very strong winds. We got a lot of wind coming in. Wind comes on different directions during our hurricane seasons, right? So we're gonna get water in through the windows. We're gonna get water in through some openings. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we got a big storm that happened one after the other in the east coast of Florida that took away almost half of the east coast. A lot of seawalls in Daytona were lost. A lot of buildings were on the verge of collapse due to losing their seawall. Those seawalls were there by 50, 60 years probably, and this storm just destroyed them. You can go back to the news and see them. I work on 2 of those buildings in particular, and it was a challenge event for those buildings. So We had to reestablish safety for the building. Both buildings were evacuated. Both buildings, people are back nowadays on their unit as normal. But those kind of event does affect a building. Those kind of event does create additional water intrusion to your building that will create aging and create damage to the building. Deterioration may progress to the point of compromising. What are we compromising on a building? We're compromising strength, we're compromising stability, the appearance of the building, roof leaks, piping system, water lines, fire sprinkler system. So when you just start getting deterioration, and at the beginning it will be very subtle, right? You will see maybe a rust spot here, some cracking here, that's fine. If association let it go and don't pay attention and are not proactive with their building, those cracks, those rust spots will turn to be a spalling. Spalling will be concrete detaching from the main members, detaching from the rebar and everything else, causing, and I'll show you a picture now, causing something like this. This is already halfway on the process of being repaired. Oops, sorry. On the process of being repaired. But a column like that has lost its strength. Right now, that column is not supporting what it's supposed to support. A building, and let me back up there a little bit. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. I tend to talk very fast. So if I'm talking too fast, let me know. If you don't understand something, let me know, because I'm Puerto Rican, so I translate a lot in my head, and I made up words sometimes. So feel free to say, hey, what the hell did you just said, man? That's fine by us, okay? A structure is designed typically foundation, columns, beams. That's the way a building is designed. So my main structural elements are always going to be my columns. That's the last part that I want to lose strength on. If we have a situation where we have columns that are falling out, that is the most critical part on a building, and we have to fix it no matter what. A column like the one that you're seeing on your screen has lost deterioration, has lost strength. Once you open it up, as you can see on the background, probably around here, you see a shoring post. Here's another one. Probably there's a lot of shoring going around the column, trying to supplement the strength that that column was holding while it's being repaired. And we repair section of a column because we don't want to lose the entire strength of that column. So those items are critical, and you see it on your CS, on your milestone, that the engineer or the person that goes out there usually will look at beams, columns, slabs, because those are my framing elements to support my building. So we want to make sure that they are in good condition and can continue to withstand the load. Possible causes for distress. We got errors in the original design. We got inappropriate materials for environment, shortcoming in construction, imperfection in materials, natural regression of building material. So what are errors in original design? When an engineer designs something, there's a group of engineers that design it. No one is perfect. Things might be left off. That sometimes happens. Sometimes it's caught, sometimes it's not. But, and I'll give you a simple example. This drawing, for example, is a simple knee wall that was designed. And if you look at it and someone that is not too prepared say, well, that looks fine to me. But if you have a better eye on it, and or contractors that are part of our board and engineers will tell you, well, okay, you got it at 2 feet apart, but what type of rebar is this? It doesn't say. How is this attached here? It doesn't say. What if I find something down on the slab? What am I gonna do now? What are just these 2 lines? So lack of information can be an error in the original design. Those are kind of things that have to be addressed, because now it's to the interpretation of the contractor when he's on site, right? Again, that you don't see that a lot of those kind of errors. Nowadays, with programs and everything, we become more and more efficient on them, but they still do happen. There's still mistakes happen here and there. Inappropriate material for environment. And here in Florida, we never use salt on our street, but in New York, areas that we get snow, you will see that all the time. So imagine if you have a building and you're throwing salt when it comes December, because cold weather is coming in. So that salt will destroy your concrete right away. And it's an inappropriate material for our type of environment. the same will apply to the roofing material that we use. The same will apply to the painting and coating that we use on our walkways and waterproofing. For the people that work with the windows, it's not the same kind of window that we're using, especially because down here, and Ben from City Quiet can chime in, we here have hurricanes, so it has to comply with the load and the wind load that we're gonna suffer. And to add to the insult, Florida keeps changing their code almost every 3 years. We have a revision on the code, and this year they bump up the numbers, and now they included tornadoes as well, which is another load that originally was not included on previous version of the code. So those kind of things affect how your building is aging, how it's maintained. So it has to be very proactive on your end. How are we gonna do those? A specialist, an engineer, an architect, someone like Ben from City Quiet can come in and say, hey, you know what? That window that you're planning on putting there, that's not the right one for this environment. You have to have something that is impact rated. You have to have something that withstand 150 something miles per hour wind. The one that you want to put from Home Depot is not going to work. You have to do something a little bit beefier. That is inappropriate material if you don't follow those kind of recommendations, right? What is inside our buildings? Well, before we go there, any questions that so far?
The only question that I have here is general, and it's just that I believe board members, besides the 4-hour certification course, are required to have 1 hour of additional continuing education. Does this course apply for board members as well?
If the answer to the question is for me, I will have to find out. I don't have that information from my company at this point, but
Okay.
I will find out.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
The question is board members are required to have 4-hour certification course in addition to 1 additional hour of continuing education. Does this course apply for board members as well?
No, it does not. And the reason being is because the additional hour is a class for like the managers in a legal update position. It has to be legal update.
Perfect. We're good to go. Hector, just as as the moderator, to jump in here for a second. I love the fact that you mentioned, that sometimes an engineer will create a specification or a project manual, and a contractor like myself will come to the table and say, hey, we might have a better solution for this application from a value engineered standpoint or from a warranty standpoint. So we love when you guys send out project manuals, and for all you property managers and board members out there, we love when engineers give their greatest suggestion that they have, but they also throw in their or approved equal. That allows us to come back with something else other than specifically what the engineer has thought was the best fit for the application. So I really appreciate you saying that, because I suggest that to board members and property managers when we give these types of classes, that's something that they should ask their engineer to put in their project manual or RFP.
Correct. And in our case in particular, we're not married to anybody. So let's say we recommended a window such and such type. If it comply with the code, at least any engineer will tell you at least it has to comply with code. Anything above is fine. Anything below is a no. So anybody will say at least it will comply with code. And the code, remember, is a minimum requirement for any building. So we always try to do a little bit better than that, because we don't want just the minimum requirement. And going with what Ben said, that's why we have our equal, because they might come in and say, you know what, for that type of window, I can probably put this one is maybe $100 more expensive, but it will give you a different rating right there. And it will be a lot better for the association. And I'm making the numbers up. Please don't quote me on those. I don't know if it's 100 or 1,000. Okay, so moving on. What is inside our buildings? And this is going to be talking more about our PT cable. So a building in Florida, South Florida, if we want to go South Florida, most of our buildings out here are reinforced concrete. That means that you have cementitious material with rock, with cement, with other properties on it. and rebar inserted as well. That is called reinforced concrete. Nowadays, a little bit further north, Florida, Orlando, Jacksonville, and all that, you got wood frame buildings. There are different kind of material used, different kind of analysis that it has to be done. No matter what, a building is still designed almost in the same condition. Foundations, supporting member, which are columns or strength walls, beams, and my deck. Usually that's the way it goes. On wood frame, you also include most of the time for wind events, the walls around that are also included as part of that framing system. But it will be a wood frame system. It's designed a little bit different. In the wood framing system, you do have to be careful about termite that not necessarily in concrete you are concerned about. So those create a different kind of deterioration on your building that we did not talk about, but those are part of it. On typical reinforced concrete buildings, which will include buildings 3 stories and higher, usually, you will have what is called nowadays, is more popular, and it keeps getting more and more popularity, is going to be the post-tension. Post-tension cables are used to supplement and reduce the size and weight of a building. So imagine if you have a 20-story building and you only do it with reinforced concrete, probably your columns are going to be massive. You're going to be huge column to support all that weight of every single floor of concrete that is coming down on it, right? So instead of doing that, what has been done on the industry is putting the cables inside. That cable create more compression on my concrete, which will, when you do the analysis, which will reduce the size of the concrete and the amount of rebars that you have to put in. So it will be a lighter structure that's coming down of those columns. Let's say that instead of having a 6-foot diameter column, now it could only probably be 3 feet wide, and that's it. So it reduces quite a bit of weight. It reduces quite a bit of additional material. So it makes it cheaper as well. That is a good sign for PTs, right? My PT cables that are inside the buildings are typically fabricated from 6 strands of a high-strength steel wire wrap around a central strand. Cables are impregnated with corrosion-resistant, greased and encapsulated and extruded plastic sheets. So sometimes in some buildings, you will see that those PT cables, you will see the plastic sheeting, you will see it at the bottom or on the top, and you say, what the hell is that? That probably is an electrical cable or something. No, most of the time it will be one of those PT, and that has to be corrected. You should not have an exposed PT cable or the sheeting of that cable. Why? Because they are designed to be inside the concrete to allow the concrete to have as much compression as possible. Sorry that if I'm going a little bit geeky on this side, this is an area that I like. So I like talking about this quite a bit. So when you have those cables exposed, that means that the concrete is not really being compressed as it should be, and it should be corrected. There are different ways how to fix it, even though that's not part of this presentation. But there are different ways and specialized companies that do this. The fixed dead end of the cable is logging one of the sides in a cast steel device at the factory. They come in, they put the cable in, and they will stress it from one of the other sides. Okay, that stress is 25,000 pounds. That's a lot of force. Usually when you see the drawings, it will say 25 to 27 kips. A kip is 1,000 pounds. So it's 27,000 pounds. They are very, very dangerous to work with. When you're doing renovation, if you know, one of the first questions that I will always ask my client, is your building a PT? You as a property manager should know if your building is a PT building or not, a post-tension building. If someone is doing renovation on a PT building, you should always ask them to have it scanned. If they're doing anything through the concrete, they should have it scanned. I've been called a lot on a lot of buildings because people were renovating their unit and hit a cable and it shoot out of the end. That will be the best case scenario, that shoot out at the end. Others are not that lucky. We were called recently to one in the raid that someone was doing a restoration and the PT cable came out of a living unit. So those kind of things happen when you're not you don't know that your building is PT. As for those kind of scenarios, there are ways to determine where the cables are. That way we don't hit them. We work on one that a cable shoot out of the end. When we took it out and we measured the length of the piece of cable, ended up being a bathroom that was renovated. A brand new bathroom, we have to open it up, break the whole new shower that they put in, close it to, because we have to fix the cable. We cannot abandon a cable. We do not recommend doing abandoning of cables. So we have to replace the section of the cable, fix the cable. So we left a big hole, and that lady now has to pay for the PT, for renovating her bathroom, and re-renovating her bathroom because we destroyed her section just to fix the PT cable. So it's very dangerous. It's very difficult to work with them and can create a lot of damage. If you remember a few years back on the bridge that collapsed in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, the university one, they were stressing a cable at that time that broke. And when it broke, the structure was already in fatigue and just collapsed the whole thing. So cables are very, very delicate. PT slab can have substantial mill steel. No matter what, we're still gonna have reinforcement on them. No matter what, we're still gonna have rebar going both ways, as you can see on the picture below. And the cables, as you can see here, these are my cables running. Typically, they will run both directions. As you can see, this is running, let's say, from top to bottom, and this is coming from left to right. You can see the black lines here. Those are my PT cables. At the end of the day, you still need reinforcement. You still need rebar, and rebar will corrode. So we have to protect that as well. PT cable are exert compressive force on the concrete slab, resulting in reduced slab cross section, like I just mentioned. Reduced section is lighter, which further reduces the required sections for beams columns. Smaller section means less material, smaller columns, lighter foundation, lower cost at the end. That's why we engineers like using it a lot, is because it's a win-win-win for everybody. However, you have to keep maintenance on them. Go ahead, Peggy, I'm sorry. You're muted.
Sorry, I did that so I wouldn't talk over you. I was just wondering if the infrared cameras are used for those cables, identification of those cables.
Yes, if not infrared, you will use a GPR, ground penetrating radar. Infrared will not tell you where the cables are, because infrared is just a difference between temperature. But a GPR, yes, it will tell you where a cable is, quite accurate. Not exactly, but quite accurate, that you can avoid going where the cable is, and most of the time can tell you the depth as well.
The other thing is, do you know, or is this a regular practice to use that technique? Like, are the architects using that as well for their inspections, or do they call in an engineer to help them with that?
You mean for the design?
No, for the
Scanning.
yeah, the scanning.
The scanning is done by a different company. It's not the engineer that does it or anything. I mean, there are engineering companies that do, but usually it's a subcontractor that we use that
Gotcha.
go out there and
Okay.
scan them. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And Hector, you know, to harp on your point, you know, not only is it costly, and I just redid my bathroom and now I have to do it again. I mean, we've seen some PT cables, you know, when you install a sliding glass door into a slab, whether it be the header or the sill, you know, and you have PT cables there and you pop a cable, it can rip through an entire building and literally kill someone, as sad as that sounds. It is extremely dangerous. So, you know, GPR scanning should be required for any renovation done in any building that is a post-tension cable building.
Agree 100%. Yes. It's very sad if we lose a life because something we knew and we knew how to fix it, right? We knew how to address it and we didn't pay attention. So yes, I agree 100%. Any other questions?
Let's see. This is a good question. I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it. How deep, far in quotations, from inside the wall would a PT cable be? How hard is it to understand how a bathroom renovation would affect a PT cable? I'll go with the second part. You could go with the first part.
So
You know, with a
how
bathroom.
deep from a wall? That's what.
Yeah. So I think what the question is how do you know? With the GPR machine with the scanning, where are the PT cables located within the thickness of the slab?
So the GPR and some of the GPR machines that are out there you will see a different kind of wave that they will show, and they will tell you depending on the wave. And I don't have a picture to show, and I'm sorry about that because I wasn't expecting that question.
It looks like
really
a roller
good
coaster.
question.
It looks like a roller coaster, though.
It's like a wave, and you will see some wave real high and suddenly a kind of deeper kind of wave lower, and that will tell you, okay, this is a lower section from my rebars, and you will see them more or less eventually at 12 inches apart or 8 inches apart, and suddenly you will see a bunch of cable. It will show you a big hump, and that it will be your PT cable, and depending on how far down, they will tell you 3, 4, 5 inches. If it's a 6 to 8 inch slab, the cable will always run in a wave pattern between columns, right? So whenever it's a column, it will be on the high point on the slab. From column to column on the slab, it will be on the low point. So if you can identify your columns, then the cable will go from a high point to a low point right at the middle and go back up to the other column. That's how they usually are installed.
So part B of the question the comment is it's hard to understand or hard to believe how a bathroom renovation could lead to a PT cable snapping or rupturing. And my answer really is look, if you're doing a bathroom renovation, you're doing any drilling into the slab, you're doing any plumbing relocations, trenching, anything like that. The second you're drilling into the slab or cutting it, you run the risk of running into a post-tension cable. And sometimes you think it's just rebar. In the window world, you think it's just rebar if you're not scanning. And, you're taking your drill and your hammer drill and you're just trying to get through that, what you think is rebar. And unfortunately, it's not rebar and it's a cable.
Right. On our situation, we found a top con that the guy just put in to hold the little wall for the shower. He went right through the cable, and when we put it out, we found the cable right there. It wasn't going through. We broke it apart. We took out the tap con, and right there the cable went through. So yeah, they hit the cable. Sorry to say. So yeah, it happens a lot. The other project, I do believe they were doing some channeling for lights, and they hit a cable, and that's why it came out on the ceiling, because they were doing something on the ceiling on another unit, and it came out on this other unit. So yeah, it happens a lot more than people think, and it's something that a CAM should know. My building is PT. If you're doing renovation, ask for GPR. If you're doing any kind of drilling, if you're doing any kind of channeling, ask for a GPR. It will save you a lot of headaches later on.
And
So
Hector,
Hector,
if I may add, we do GPR in-house. So sometimes when I do it, it's most importantly is how you analyze or interpret the images. Because I just did a job couple of days ago, and it was like a really dark image because there are a lot of conduit, wires, rebars, and post tension. So we wanted to dowel some steel, so we need to find this right spot. Now this is a garage, which is we have a lot of room. If they're asking about a bathroom or inside the unit, that's going to be a really tight place. But I really agree with you because that's how I do it, which is I take both references, which is the next two columns, and I stay away from the columns. The middle of the span between them, that's the deepest point. But my point is just to get somebody not to only scan and just to understand what he's scanning. That's the most important.
Yes, very important. Yes, agreed.
So I got two things to piggyback on Daniel and Hector. When scanning, it's not just simply scanning and recording and saving images. It's actually marking the locations onto the concrete so that when Daniel or myself or someone who's going to be doing work within the slabs or in the concrete, they can visibly see there is a post tension cable here. Do not drill here. Move over 6 inches or whatever it may be. So you really want to make sure that your engineer your restoration company, in this case PD, is marking the cables, with a big Sharpie marker or some spray paint, so that we want to stay away from them. And then to either Daniel here or Hector, question is, can you briefly explain the difference between a PT slab construction as opposed to precast concrete?
As precast concrete. So precast concrete are there are different kind of scenarios for a precast concrete. So typically those are built on a plan, a fabrication plan. They do them in sections, right? Most of the ones that you will see out there are hollow core, what they're called hollow cores, and what you will see is like holes in different areas. They're typically sections, I would say, probably 4 or 8 feet wide, whatever length it is, and those are pre-tensioned cables. So you tense the cable before you pour the concrete in, and then you release them. Once you pour the concrete and it's dry, then you release them, which will create that compression section again, because the cable will try to shrink. So those are precast sections that you will build, and you will see typically hollow cores. They're not that typical, but we have seen them and they do deteriorate. How to fix those are more complicated, because now you have to analyze how was this working, how it was supported, the length, and then rebar has to be added, and it changed a little bit the configuration of it that you were originally had if you don't maintain them that well. The difference will be that you have those hollow sections inside is a lot lighter than typical reinforced concrete and PT cables.
Okay, and then I'll let you get on with your presentation. The last question for this section or segment, and then we'll keep going, is do you have any idea when the PT cable systems originated and started being used in construction?
If I remember correctly, I think it was close to the 60s. They started at one point. They have gone through various iterations. Originally, it was like 1/10 cable. Then it came the strands, but they were strand inside the concrete without any protection. They found out that that wasn't working correctly. Then they came out with paper kind of sheeting around them to shield them from concrete. That gets damaged real easy. It loses the grease inside. The end section has been updated as well for a long time. We keep changing those. Nowadays is the 5 strands through wrap around one of the cables. That's what we're using nowadays. But I do believe it was started back in the 60s.
All right, awesome. We are clear on questions for now.
And if I may just add one thing before
Go
Hector,
ahead.
because I see it almost every time that somebody called me for a walkthrough, is as you mentioned, they don't know they have a tension slab, and that's really, really important. And Hector, if you want to just put 1,000 line underneath that before they doing any walkthrough. I was in a building and they called me. It's like, hey, there is a chunk of concrete falling from the edge of the balcony. And I went there and I see 2 anchors from the bend line on top of each other. So I freaked out and I asked the property manager to please shore this right away today until we figure out these things. So please, if you have a picture lately in your presentation of the anchor, at least you show them what it look like.
Sure.
So in case they see it or exposed, or at least they know what they're dealing with.
Sure.
I appreciate.
I think I do have one later on. An advice would be, if you walk your building and you look at the edge of the balconies, an edge anywhere, you will start suddenly seeing like a Coke can kind of effect, a halo kind of effect. It is rounded, circular, it start getting dark around it. Usually that will be an easy indication that that's a PT pocket. Why is it turning dark around it? Because the grout that was used is failing, moisture get in there like water and stuff like that, and it start getting dirty and all that. And that, if you see that like a Coke can kind of halo effect, that will be an indication that you have PT cable. That's a very easy to identify on a building. Granted, if you just painted the building, you're not gonna know until a little bit later on, but that's how usually you will quickly know one thing or another. So most visible advantage of a PT system is your windows. Stable cable may become damaged by corrosion, brittle wire cracking, improper on-site storage prior to installation, improper handling during construction, and post-construction coring, drilling operations. I think we talk all about those. The most critical one that we see, and for you property managers, the most critical one will be corrosion. Why? We are on a salty environment. Florida is over sand. We got salt all over our buildings every single year. So corrosion is critical. Sometimes when they were building or they constructed it, the grout that they used was not the correct one. The grease cap was not used. And in older buildings, this becomes more critical because the product has changed, right? Like we talked a little bit well back. So the corrosion is the most critical part, and keep in mind that you will have rebar attached to it. So if the rebar is corroded, it could affect the cable. How to fix it becomes very detail oriented for someone like Danielle and their company to come in and fix it, because you have to work around a cable without breaking it. Cable repairs are very expensive, and you should do everything you can to keep a building as safe as possible to avoid working with PT cables as much as you can. Cables that are older, from the 60s, 70s, that are brittle, they will start breaking apart. You will see the wires coming out of them. That is, it's too late. The cable has lost its tension. Now you have to fix them. There's no option there. You will hear a lot, well, why can't we just abandon the cable? Yes, you can do an analysis to abandon a cable. That is true. I'm not going to lie. But first of all, you're going to pay for a structural engineer to analyze if you can or not abandon a cable. However, think about it. A cable was used to reduce the size of my concrete. It is holding weight, right? Because it's tension. If you lose that cable, yeah, maybe the next cable can hold it. But what if we lose that cable? Do we know that it was tensioned in the correct way? And when you keep adding that up, me as an engineer that we do restoration every day, we do not want to take that risk. So if I look at a cable that was broken, I will always tell you, fix the cable, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Two units down, the guy might do restoration and break another cable that now, where is that load is going to go, right? We don't want to create that kind of scenario, and you should not make that decision either. So I always will recommend, let's fix the cables. Warning shows will be exposed PT strands, and we got a picture of a PT strand coming up. Spole, broken concrete revealing the steel, and balcony tile dislodged. So what does that mean is the balcony tile suddenly will pop up and say, oh, that's strange that it happened. It was all fine until yesterday. I heard a chipping hammer and suddenly my tile came up. Well, then this might be an indication that something broke, right? If we look at that, this particular picture that we're seeing, you can see this section here. Let me see if I can do this. Laser point, okay. This section here, this is an older building and the cable is exposed right there. This is a metal section that they have for something else, but this is my cable. This is critical now for us and for the safety of the building. See that it's very high up? Look where my column is. It's very high up because we're right there at my column. So yeah, we were expecting it to have it high, but not so high that it came out of the concrete. Now the contractor, the engineer, we have to shore this place up. They're gonna open this up, lower the cable, and then retension it again, replacing the cable because this is all corroded. Corroded cable is not a good idea either, like rebar, right? We have to replace some section of rebar. The cable is the same thing. Remember, it's 27,000 pounds, 25 to 27,000 pounds of the cable have. It's a lot of strength there. Let me see if I can do this now. Nope, doesn't want to move. Okay. Yeah, okay. On my edge here, like Daniel was saying before, we got our locking system for my PT cables. Behind that lock, we have two set of rebar that are what they call stub rebars. They will help the concrete to withstand the load that is applied to it from tensioning those cables, right? Because it's going to compress the concrete. So those rebar, if they get corroded like something similar to this one, we have to fix them. Now, this becomes a very detailed or very critical repair because we got heads, what we call heads of the PT cables right here on the edge. We don't want to dislodge the cables or anything. Sometimes what it end up happening is that we have to put a lock on a cable somewhere to reduce the tension, fix the area, and then tension it back again. It's very complicated to do that. That's why maintenance is critical on all of our buildings. And Daniel, you can jump in, my friend.
No, I want to ask you to explain to everybody that sometimes we lock off the cables, not because the cables are bad, just because we need to detension the concrete so we can perform a repair on the concrete. And it's like it's by the way, we have to fix the cable. If you can explain this more in details, because I'm facing this a lot in my jobs, and asking me why you are replacing the cable or resupplying a tail was good and the grease still there, but I was always trying to explain it's safe for us to chip. We have to kill that or lock it off. If you can just stop on this, please.
Sure, that's a very good point. Like we were mentioning, the PT cables are stressed to 25 to 27,000 pounds. We avoid and we highly recommend every contractor to avoid working around a live. When you have that kind of load or strength, we always tell them to avoid working with live cables. That's what we call them, live cables. Why? Because if the guy working with the chipping hammer is not paying attention, he's tired, it's 2 o'clock and my bosses keep, oh my God, come on, we gotta get it done. He's just tired, he wants to do something else, and he slipped and hit that cable, it could be his life on the line. So when you're working around PT cables and you're gonna repair a rebar that had nothing to do with the cable, it's highly recommended to detention the cables because you don't want to create an issue later on or lose your life. Fix what you have to fix, and then you retention that cable. That is a typical procedure and is expected when you have a PT building. That there are contractors out there that will risk it, yes. I will not recommend that at all because safety is first, right, for everybody. So we should be considering the people that are doing the work. We work on a job site that the contractor did not pay attention to it. The guy was working around PT cables after we told him to stop, and the guy lost his leg. Thank God it was only his leg. It wasn't his life, but it has so much strength, those cables, that we do not want that kind of risk. Not only that life, just imagine losing 1 cable, 2 cables, 3 cables all at once because someone was working and just damaged it by mistake because, hey, it was a mistake. That can cause a lot of stress on a building and could even cause cracking and collapsing. We don't want that either. So it's better to be safe than sorry, guys. When you have a situation, they have PT cables, always consider that you will have to distress the cable. So you have to put a lock on it, distress the cable, and then do your corrections. After that, you will stress the cable again. Everything is peachy and keep moving forward. But I agree with Danielle that and that it's part of our process to do that. Yes. Okay, let me see if I can continue on. Let me see if I can take this off. Okay, so have you seen any of the damage of corrosion damage? What's underneath your balcony, indoor or outdoor carpet? So typically for us, we typically say don't put any carpet outside. They will hold moisture. When it rains, it will not dry properly. It will let all those waters and salt and everything go through, and it will destroy your concrete. It will start what we call spalling. And I'll describe this a little bit further down. Spalling is the detachment of my section of concrete from that rebar or from the main section of concrete. A situation like you're seeing on that picture is a spall already. It's already exposed rebar from a spall. It was originally started to crack. Then it sounded hollow because it creates like a rash on the floor, if you want to think about it that way. And then it dislodged completely, exposing the rebar that was corroding beneath it. Rebar, and we'll explain this later, rebar will expand up to 20, 30, 40% of its size. Concrete is great on pressure. It's controlling that pressure. Once it's in tension, when the rebars start expanding inside, it will create tension. Concrete is not good in tension. It will break. And that's where you get your spalling. We highly recommend that you do not put any carpets on your balconies. If you have them, start talking to the board. Have your engineer come out there and talk to them. This is going to create a problem later on. Let's start working on this now. Tile to an extent is acceptable, but it has to be installed in the correct way. Usually we highly recommend that you put a waterproofing before you install your tile. Why? Because tile, we want it flat. We don't want it with an angle because we're going to slip, right? So the water will sit there and just sit there, and it will be sucked in by the concrete, which will cause corrosion. We don't want that either. So a lot of associations are moving to the point of not accepting tile on their balcony. Other associations have moved to, hey, if we're going to put tile, this is the procedure that you have to follow, and we're going to hire someone to inspect it that you follow that procedure, because they want to extend the life of the building. Doing concrete repair is very expensive. Cubic foot of concrete nowadays can go up to 500, 5 something, depending on how much it is. Per cubic foot, it's a very expensive process. Most of you camps have worked on projects like this, and you know how bad it can get. So that's why we're moving away from those kind of situations. Awareness and prevention. This is the part that most impact you guys, because this is the part that you really, and I try to put a little bit of extra on this, so you really can do helpful events for your building. So preventing building maintenance responsibility. You can do a periodic visual walkthrough with the CAM, with the building engineer, or the building maintenance committee. There's always a committee on the buildings nowadays, right? So if you have a committee, go out there, look at your building and say, we do this every, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months. You can do it twice a year, and walk the building and say, last time I don't remember seeing that. What was there before? Take pictures. Pictures are great. They're free. Everybody has a phone nowadays. They're free, and you can save it on your computer. Easy as that. And I'll show you how you can save them later. But take pictures, because you're not going to remember what you saw 6 months ago or 3 months ago. Walk your buildings. Your maintenance crew are usually the people that knows your building better than anybody else. They walk your building every single day. They know when they see something strange. They know that, that crack wasn't there before. Those are your first signs. So boards of directors' motto is to maintain, protect, and enhance the value of the property by enforcing the governing documents while promoting a spirit of community. So if that's what they're supposed to be doing, why are we not doing it? How many of your association members walk their buildings until an engineer shows up and tell them that they have to do a lot of repairs? When a contractor shows up and say, hey, I'm going to work here, prepare to hear a lot of noise. So a lot of people don't do that. Get your committee online. Get them say, hey, let's walk the buildings 3 times a year, 4 times a year. Do it every 3 months, every 6 months. At least get something moving. Look for your building. What are you going to be looking at? So you're going to be looking out for cracks, as you can see on this picture right here. This is my sliding glass door. Oops. Nope. I got the wrong thing, sorry. This is my sliding glass door. I'm on a balcony looking at the wall. The owner must have seen that. I mean, that is visual right there. Better than that, you cannot have something, right? Walk your building. Go in and look at the balconies. Every 6 months, go with the maintenance guy and look at the balconies. You see cracks. Cracks are my first sign of deterioration. Crack is telling me, hey, there's something going on here. I'm not attached correctly. I'm breaking apart. I need help. You will see cracks on your building. You will see, like this picture below, you will see the coating and painting falling off your building. It's time for doing painting on your building. Why is it failing? If the rest of the building is not failing, why is this area in particular so bad? Is it getting a different kind of wind? Is it getting more water? Is it stressed more? Those kind of things have to pop out at you when you look at your building and you're walking and say, Why the left side is worse than the right side? You will see deviations, you will see movement, you will see voids, you will see corrosion exposure, you will see exposed metals. I got pictures of those, don't worry. Hollow spot, rust spot, and spallings. So if I can move this, let's see. So you walk your building and suddenly you see something like this. Well, that's a big indication that something is going on. You see, we have a crack going on. You got rust coming in. That means that my rebar behind is kind of have an issue inside. If you look at the slab edge, you see a crack right here going on. Why is my slab edge breaking apart? That's not a good sign. I got rust coming through because I see bleeding here on that side. That you take a picture, send it to your engineer. Your engineer should be capable enough to say, yep, you have a problem, you have to fix that. Don't let the maintenance guy paint over it. Please don't do that. Allow the engineer, allow a contractor, a reputable contractor that can do the work, come in and fix it. It's cheaper to fix this one than let it go and go and go. On this picture in particular, this is one balcony, but if you look up, there's a section here that is lost. There's a section here that looks strange. Granted, this is 26-story building. You're not gonna see the top of it. You can have some binoculars. You can walk on the balconies. You can always say, hey, with the fire inspection that we do every year, we're gonna look at the balconies, right? That is the association being proactive. On this picture, I'm sorry to say that it doesn't look that well, but you can see kind of a crack here, but really this is bulging out. And if you tap it, you take a hammer, a golf club, a broom, and you tap it, it's gonna sound hollow. It's gonna be very unique sound. That means that we have a spall and it's detaching. That means call your engineer. Take a picture, call your engineer. Come on over, look at this. Can you help me out? You will see water coming in, especially on the garage, on the control joint. If you get water coming in, some of the material that we use for the building has exceeded its useful life. You're not supposed to be getting water into your building unless it's a major event like a hurricane. Yeah, expect some water. But on a typical rain, am I gonna get that amount of water in? No, there's something going on there. Call your engineer, call your maintenance guy, talk about it. Let's try to fix it. On this one in particular, you can see that there's a crack right there. So that's something else that you have to look for. Take pictures, save them. It will help you every 6 months, every 3 months, whatever you do on your building, it will give you an idea how is it maintain your building. So when to bring in a consultant and why? The consultant will analyze the structure, performance of different materials and geometries to determine the best design solution. We will look for problem solving. We'll look how to solve the problem that you're having on your building. And we'll look for safety, crucial for ensuring the safety and stability of a structure. I always tell my clients, and I always say my property managers, I usually don't stop a job just because, unless there is a safety issue going on. If I see the contractor working on a PT cable without this, not releasing the strength of the cable, if I see a contractor working without a safety equipment right next on an edge, I will stop a job because safety should come first. If I see a building, and I have seen my share, that the columns are bad, the beams are bad, and the building is starting to tell you everywhere, hey, I cannot support the weight anymore, I will tell you, and we will have to inform the authorities. We are liable if we don't say that. Surfside, I'm sorry to say, all of you have seen a lot of report on it. What happened to the engineer? Even though the engineer said, hey, this is bad, we have to fix it, he still has to pay for it. For whatever reason, he was supposed to enforce the association to do the work. How to do that? I cannot get my wife to get something done. Imagine getting an association, get something done, right? So how are we gonna do that? We have to keep them informed, but safety is crucial. When do you call us? When there is deterioration that you observe, when you see exposed rebar, when PT is damaged, those are critical items that you have to call us. I think there's a question going on, Ben.
Yep. The question pertains to fire inspection requirements. We are a 2-story building of 8 condos in each within the city of Green Acres in Palm Beach County. I'm not familiar with the requirement.
So most associations and most buildings, they do require to have an annual inspection of the fire sprinklers and their fire system. That's how usually it goes. For a two-story, I'm not sure, but I'm assuming the fire department will require you to do the same thing. So every year they go in and they check either if they have any fire protection system on, or the sprinkler system and the fire alarm system. They go and check every year. Peggy?
Yes, there was a law passed a couple of years ago that it is a requirement for annual fire inspections. I'm sorry, fire inspections, but fire equipment inspections.
Thank you, Peggy. So yeah, when you're doing that inspection, since you already have to probably go into the unit, take that moment to go in and check the balconies. Take pictures of the balconies. It's okay. Because you want to look for those distress. Remember, you will see, let's say your association, like the gentleman was saying, is 8 buildings. Let's say that he has 10 units per building. That's 80 units. You're not going to remember the first unit from the last one. I can assure you that much. You got a general idea, but you're not going to remember. Take pictures. Document the pictures correctly. There's a way to do that. We'll talk about it a little bit on the next slide. But take the pictures. It will help you a lot to see how the deterioration progresses. When you have deterioration, it will progress. It will not stop and revert to being good concrete. It will never happen that way. It will always continue to get worse. So when you walk your building, you're going to do a structural and building system condition assessment. That's what we call a survey, right? That is what our engineer, when you call the engineer, that's what he's going to be doing. He's going to be doing a survey. We're looking for deterioration on the structure. We're looking for damages. We're documenting those damages, and we will present it to the association. What the association does after that is based on the board, right? But the intent, if the building is in bad condition, is to move on for a restoration job. In your case, let's say that before you even call an engineer, you're walking to the building, that I keep telling that, create a photo log. You can use something similar to this. You can have a section for the roof. Walk your roof and take a couple of pictures. East wall, west wall, north wall, south wall, units, garage, whatever other area you want. You have a folder like that and save it. Every time you go out, you take pictures and you save it per date. And you can have a reference where you were. If you're going to units, please take a picture of the unit number before you go in. Take your pictures and then come out. That way it's easier to remember if it was unit 101 or 502. I don't remember now because they all look alike. So number of the picture of the unit, the balcony, and you come out. If you see something, sometimes cracks are very difficult to take picture on, especially if they're very thin. So you have to zoom in. You can zoom out and then put your pen and say, right here is the crack, and you take a picture. That gives an idea, if you send it to your engineer, what is he looking at? Because we need to try to figure out what we're looking at when the pictures that you send, right? But if you save them and have them organized, 6 months from now, you go in and do the same walkthrough and put the pictures again. 6 months later, you can compare apples to apples. And that will be a huge saving for you guys to start seeing deterioration and maintenance. It will help the contractor. It will help if you have to replace windows, because windows get old, as you see on your Sears, the life expectancy of them. Your roof, when it started leaking, take picture where it was. Try to have a section and mark them. It was here, it was here, it was here. They fixed this area. That gives you a lot of information on how much repairs that we have. It is very sad that I go to buildings and sometimes it's a new property manager. They never left anything for him. But if they did, it's very little. Maybe the suppliers is all the information that you usually get. If you have something like this that can be passed on, it's a lot of information that can save a lot of money and a lot of problems for you guys. I think there was a question on.
Peggy, the anonymous attendee would like you to please repeat your statement about the fire inspection requirement.
Well, I can't remember what year it was, but I want to say 2 years ago, could have been 3 years ago, the law was put into effect that the fire equipment had to be inspected annually for condominiums.
And who is responsible for initiating the inspection? Is it the fire department reaching out, or is
No.
the condominium responsible?
No, it's the condominium.
Thank you.
So just put it on the schedule, every January or February, maybe your annual meeting will be a point of remembrance to remind yourselves that, it needs to be done annually. So it's a minimal expense when you think about what could happen as a total disaster. So I highly recommend, that the law should have been in place years ago, in my opinion. But just make it an annual thing to do.
All right, Hector, you are all clear.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks.
So
Peggy.
on a survey, when we go out to a property and do a full survey, what are you supposed to expect from us? You're supposed to expect a summary of our findings. Some summaries are more detail oriented, some are a little bit less. It will depend on what we find and what you want at the end of the day, right? So the survey will tell you, it should tell you at least that what you found with the concrete, what you found with the stucco, the sealant, the paint, window conditions. It should have photos, because the engineer should go out there to take photos if he did an inspection on the roof or not. Limited common areas that they look at, right? This is a sample of one of our projects that we did. They requested, this particular association requested to be as detailed as possible. So this was 488 units. We inspected 478 units. We provided every single document to them, and it was, I guess, more than 10,000 pictures that we took. All of them were provided back to the association and a report. So we give you a jump drive with everything back to it. Not all the Sears are required to be that way. Or some Sears, I'm sorry, not all surveys are required to be that way. Some surveys are more general. Hey, I don't want you to look at all of the units. Just do like 30% and let me know what is going on. So we'll give you a little letter saying, hey, this is what we found, and this is a couple of pictures so you can get an idea, and that's what you wanted, right? Some associations decide, hey, I know that my building is bad. I don't want to report from your survey. I want to go straight to fixing it. So we have to do an analysis on the building no matter what. I have to walk the building. I have to quantify how much I see as damage to bid it out to contractors. Not necessarily I have to do a report. The report come in for different reasons on different associations, but sometimes we've been asked, don't give me a report. I know it's bad. Just go straight to fixing the building. So when you see your engineer that gets out there and you see my beautiful face out there going with my team to look at a building, there are different ways that the engineer should evaluate. Yes, there is the visual only, like we're doing for the milestone in Sears, is a visual walkthrough only. So we're looking, and whatever we think is bad, we'll mark it down and continue on. You will see a lot of people, and I'm a fan of using the golf club. The code requirement to do in-service structural evaluation is usually with a hammer. But can you imagine a 8-story, 8-foot tall, 10-foot tall roof? A guy like me that is only 5'8" and shrinking, I'll probably will never get to that roof, right? At that ceiling. So, or bending over for the entire catwalk, right? So the purpose of the hammer test is for sound. We're looking for hollowness on the concrete. So the hammer is replaced with a golf club because we got better reach. Nowadays, there's also the little card. It's the laminated stucco percussion something. It's what this little card is called. And when you roll it down, it's like hitting the concrete the whole time that is moving, and it creates the same hollowness. And the other option will be drag chaining. You will drag that on your deck, but you cannot do that on a wall, on a ceiling. That's why this other equipment will help you a lot to do that. You as a property manager, this on any place you can go, you can find them by $2-3 anywhere around there. So pick one and just learn, just tab the concrete if you see something. If you want to go that technical, you don't have to on your building. At least take pictures. But this is what you will typically see from engineers that go out there and do the work. So don't feel bad if they show up with this technical equipment called a golf club. It is sounding and it helps a lot. Daniel?
Yes, I just want to tap on something that you just mentioned and really important, and I'm really have a hard time with it on all my jobs. The inspection, the quantification. I work with a couple of engineering company, of course, I'm not gonna mention the names, but they only pick one or maximum 5 balconies out of 50 and based their quantification and the repair quantity based on those 2 balconies. What's gonna happen when the job started, it's either gonna be a lot of change orders or a lot of unseen conditions that might be more than hollow slab or walls, could be more like a punching failure or PT or more things. So my recommendation to other property managers, board members is when you hire an engineering company, you force them to see at least 50 to 70% of the amount of balconies to go from inside, schedule them. I work with an engineering company. They did something amazing, which is they send a notification of a week in advance with an email saying we're going to be going into this units. Please get it clear or notify the homeowners. So they went in, they start tapping on the walls of the balcony without, removing the screen or doing anything, just like a not intrusive inspection. And that job I remember was honestly finished on budget, maybe like 5% less than the budget because it was very accurate. And I have also the opposite, which is not me. I mean, every contractor have seen this. We've seen the opposite either go up really high or low, which is affecting us now because you are bidding and counting on a job and it's going to be low. So that's one of the most important is to fully inspect, give a room to the engineers to go to every unit, do some kind of board meeting with the engineer to tell them what you've seen. And also a water intrusion problem. I've seen this as people, I do bi-weekly meeting in all my jobs. So I always recommend if just to push the bed away from the wall, push the nightstand, look behind it. If you see a wall, water stains, anything, just let us know since we are there on that stock or that wall just to also to fix it. So yeah, the quantification is really important and to go to every unit or balcony is really, really important here.
Thank you, Daniel. Peggy, you had a question or something coming up? I thought I saw your hands up. No? Okay. Ben, do we have any other question?
No, there was a question I answered, but I'll share it, which was when, and specifically, let's say to Karins, when would it be beneficial for a condominium association to hire a special inspector, also known as a threshold inspector, for certain types of projects, as opposed to just having the city come out?
So typically the city will require you to do that. That is a requirement based on each city individually. Usually 3 stories or higher, anything that you're doing, especially when it's exposed rebar, they will call and say, hey, you need a special inspector for this. Usually it's the city that tells you to do that more than anything else. You as an association, I will highly recommend always having an engineer on your side, because our job is to protect you at the end of the day, right? So we're not gonna risk our license just because. So yes, get someone out there once it's 3-story or higher. If you're working with a structural element, you should have an engineer there. Yes. Okay, well, moving on. So these are the devices that you will typically see when they're doing a survey. Like Daniel was saying, it will depend. The association have a limited budget. We usually, varies by market, but Daytona market, for example, we usually do 100%. West Palm Beach, we're doing 100% of the units, right? Everything that we can reach. Not all associations are willing to do that. We highly recommend doing as much as you can. but not all associations are doing that. Some associations are only asking for 40%. We try never to go below 40%, because 40% at least give us a good idea of what's going on. But imagine 40% on 488 units, the number is not going to be that accurate, right? So the higher that you can go, the better it will be. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect. I'm saying that it's going to be more accurate, right? It's going to be more precise in that sense. So moving forward, let me see, because my computer decided not to work right now. Okay, I can use the keyboard. So what are you going to do when you start doing all this? We all know now that the Sears have come in and it's affected everyone for good or for bad, depending on how you want to look at it. So what are we going to do as preventive maintenance? So definitely we want to clean our building. That's one thing that is not here because we're talking straight to the Sears. But you as a property manager can recommend, hey, let's clean our building every 6 months. Let's go and just wash the buildings, let the owner wash their balconies. And we had a building up in Daytona that they had a day per elevation, and say, okay, the top floor, the penthouse will do Monday, the next floor will be Tuesday, Thursday, because the dirt will continue to come down, right? So they were cleaning their balconies per day, moving down the building and taking all the salt out, everything else. That is great for your building. If you cannot do that, that's why you should have your maintenance crew trying to keep track of what's going on your building, but you should have a maintenance plan as cleaning the building, right? When you're doing, before you even do the repairs, you should have a budget. Before the Sears, before all this new law came in, people were doing assessment or not doing repairs at all. We're going to push it for next year. We're going to push it for next year. We're going to push it for next year. And your building keeps deteriorating until you are either condemned and cannot go back to the building, and we have seen a couple, or God forbid, some scenario like Surfside, right? So right now, based on the laws that we have a structural integrity reserve study. I'm not going to go too deep on this because I believe all of you have suffered through this. And some of you, if you're not, you're going to be doing it very soon. But in general, my Sears or SIRS, or however you want to say it, is an evaluation of the building that will evaluate particular components of the building, and you will save money for maintenance or replacement of those items. It should be at least done every 10 years, at least. That means that you don't have to do it every 10 years. You can do it every 5, every 3, or every year if you want to, right? Some people are very upset with their engineers when they did the Sears because it's a lot of money. Oh my God, we cannot do. Well, you have an option. You comply with the law. You have an option to revise it next year with a different firm if they have more room. Probably they'll come up with the same number or very similar, but at least you got the opportunity to revise it every year if you want to, but at least it has to be done every 10 years. For every budget adopted on or before December 31st, the member of a unit owner control association must obtain a structural integrity reserve study and may not determine to prove no reserve or less reserve than required. So you cannot vote nowadays, you cannot vote to say we're not going to save money to fix the roof, to fix the structure, or any of the items listed below that you already know about. You cannot vote for no. You have to say, granted that you can say, hey, we're going to do a special assessment. Yes. We're going to get a loan. You can get a loan, but you have to prove it and have to be on your documents. So that is a requirement. The good and bad about that is a lot of people were not saving for their buildings. A lot of people were not paying attention to that and what was coming up. Other people were, and they're okay. I'm okay. The Sears didn't affect me that much. Others, like we have seen in this office, goes from $30,000 a year to $200,000. That's going to be 700% increase on all the members. It's ridiculous. But they never fixed the building. The building is falling apart, spoiled everywhere. The roof is coming up for replacement. So they got a lot of maintenance issues to address all at once now, which is a bad thing for them. So please, please, please be proactive on all this. Roof is a very particular item that, like it or not, some insurance companies are forcing their members to replace their roof every 16 years. Why? I cannot tell you the why, but it has happened and it's still happening. Every 16 years, they have to replace the roof. Good or bad condition, I don't care. You have to replace it. That is a big expense every 16 years, depending on your building. So those kind of things has to be considered. The one that is always up for grabs is anything that exceeds 10,000. So what would that be? So we're looking for items that can cause damage to my main item, the electrical system, my waterproofing, my windows, my structure, my roof. So we also include there safety items, my railings. If you live on a two-story building, it doesn't matter, and the railing fails, you are gonna be hurt really bad or lose your life, and we don't want that. So railings are getting integrated into that 10,000. Stucco repairs could be integrated into that 10,000. Any item that can affect my roof, my structure, my fireproofing, my plumbing, anything that can affect it, that is more than $10,000 should be included on your Sears. Some people add it, some people don't. I understand that part. Some association decides to move it because you can move it to your regular capital reserve, but that's what the law requires, right? The railing is not a structural thing, not necessarily. So why have it on the Sears? So I move it to my capital reserve. Fine, but you're saving for it for safety. But it should be here for a safety kind of concern for the person. My turnovers and reserve studies. Turnover is when an ownership is transferred from the developer to a homeowner association or condominium association. If you all know about Sears, turnover is typical. That happens way at the beginning of the building. Most of you here are working with existing buildings, so you're past your turnover part. But usually when the developer finished the building or it has reached more than, I think it's 75% or 54%, something like that, from the developer to a homeowner association and they build the HOA, then it will be transferred to them and you should have a turnover study. There is a law for the turnover and it tells you what you have to follow. Then you do your reserve study. This is not a Sears. This is to provide current estimate of cost of repair and replacing major common area components, not on Sears, over the long term. So the items that are on the Sears are not going to be on the reserve study. Have to be two different ones. What typically we have seen is that some association will say, hey, I agree that there are two different documents because I have to present it to the state, but to analyze the number, what I'm going to get at the end, I want both numbers combined so I can see what is my real number per year that I have to say. So we will combine them for them. But that is an extra step that we take to help the association out. My reserve study, at the very least, a review of the reserve should be performed each year, and a new update reserve is performed every 3 years. So consider the same way for a Sears, right? We want to review it every year. We're on track, we're not on track, and every 3 years you should be updating it because things change. Tariffs might affect the pricing, up or down. Who knows what's going to happen? A hurricane situation, a COVID situation might affect my pricing. So those kind of things you should be prepared because when the time comes to replace your roof, to do concrete repair, to do painting, you want to have the money there and not go after special assessments. Ask yourself, did we reduce operating expenses in some significant and lasting way? Do we have a reserve fund or Sears? Is there any reserve fund? How much is it? What capital expenditure can we anticipate in the years to come? Are we balancing our budget? That's critical by drawing down on savings or selling assets. So again, it goes back to the same thing. Your Sears, your capital reserve will tell you by year 2030, we're going to replace the roof. It should tell you how much you're saving per year until you get to that point. Perfect. Now you have to evaluate it every year and say, hey guys, and tell the association, hey guys, we're low, we need to catch up. Such and such are not paying, or hey, you're not saving enough. You just said $500, but we need 1,000. Those kind of things, those conversations have to be there. Now with the change on Milestone and Sears, you are also liable for a lot of issues that happen with the Sears and Milestone. You are also responsible for it. So be careful about that. I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to give you attorney advice, but please read the law. Please make sure that you're following it and keep track of what you're doing. Help the association make those decisions. Prudent step to learn the ownership structure by law. We should learn what the board can do and cannot do, and most do. And hire a qualified professional. We got a couple of qualified professionals here that I know of. They're very good that they can come out and say, hey, I look at your building, you should call an engineer. They really need it. Or you need an electrician, mechanical, life safety, whatever is needed. Let them go out there and help you out on your building. Let them be a service to you, because that's what we're here for. Fund and execute the recommended maintenance work. That's why we talk about the SEERs, we talk about the capital reserve. You are trying to do as much as you can for your building to keep up with it. Take the pictures, save the pictures, call your specialists, let them be out there and help you out. It's not gonna be a problem. Maintenance on a building should be on a cycle. Typically what we tell our clients is that it's a 7-year cycle, right? Every 7 years you're gonna paint, no matter what. So year number 5, you're evaluating the building by an engineer. Year number 6, you're doing the construction, because when they finish, usually takes 8 months to a year, you're painting your building, it's done. So that is the cycle that you should follow. The first restoration project usually is the most expensive one. After that, it becomes a pattern and it becomes less and less and less that you're doing, or it keeps kind of stable. So year number 5, you're doing your evaluation. Year number 6, you're doing the work, and year 7 is finished painted. Because every 7 years, you're painting your building to keep up with maintenance. In addition, you should hire an independent financial advisor to help you manage your money and audit the records. We talk about a couple of our friends here that can help you with those kind of scenarios. I am not an expert on that subject by any means. So please reach out to them, because they can help you out a lot, including looking for different insurance, looking for different savings on your property. Demand full disclosure of all expenditures. You as an HOA manager, they should not be hiding stuff from you. Conduct your reserve study on different one of the major building elements or system every year, at least revise them, and evaluate your reserve fund like we talk about. You want to be saving. You want to make sure that you're on track based on those savings. It is critical for you guys to have that money. Funding restoration and preventive maintenance are reserved, special assessments, and bank financing. Those are still options that you can do. Reserve is a little bit better. I'm always against getting loans, but loans are a big issue of big associations, right? People have used loans to alleviate the impact that the SEERs will have on them and keep a practical number for years to come. Instead of doing 1,000 something, it's just 500 because we're just paying the loan down, right? It's a good idea to have. It's a good alternative if you don't have the money to do your assessment or your repairs on the building. Undertaking building restoration and or preventive maintenance project. Formulating the scope of the project and schedule the phases. So survey is the first one, and I think that's poorly written. Survey is the first one that we talk about. Hire your engineer that will go out there. He will look at your building. He will find significant deficiencies, problem, or ongoing maintenance concerns that are visible at the time of observation. He will provide you a report, if you want it or not, about what he found, and he will tell you how to move forward. Yes, we should do a project. No, you don't need a project, you just need maintenance. You and the board will decide how you're gonna move forward with that project. Some association that I have worked on said, hey, Hector, I cannot manage $5 million of a project. What can we do? And in particular cases, we have different building or different areas. So we say, okay, priority number 1 is my structure, beams, columns, slab. Once I fix that, next could be a phase 2. So we're doing the stucco on the outside, we're doing this, we're doing painting, we're doing waterproofing. 3 will be, I don't know, the roof or my railings or whatever. So we can try and help you out divided by phases if you cannot do everything at once, but at least the major items should be addressed. What are the project manual will cover? Because I mentioned the project manual. The project manual is my specifications, bidding documents, and drawings. That's the way that we handle it here at Karins. We do our project manual that will have everything integrated and is based on the survey. So that job that we mentioned at the beginning that we did 488, all of the data collected was put on a big table. It was shared with the board. And they said, okay, move forward with the project. We did a project manual with all those quantities. That is part of my project manual. It will have my drawings there on how to fix the building. What products should we use? It will have the bid document so you can compare apples to apples. It's critical for you guys to be as transparent as possible, because this is where we lose the board. And this is where people start screaming and we change boards. Be as transparent as possible. These are my quantities. These are the number from 5, 6, 7 different vendors. And that's what we usually get. Bid documents. At least most of your condo documents require 3. I always say 4, 5, 6. Why? Because some people decide not to show up. Some people decide not to provide a bid document on it. So at least you have more than 1, more than 3 in case someone drops out. You should compare apples to apples. We as an engineer, Karins at least, will not tell you, go with this guy. I will tell you, I see this number high, I see this number low. The decision should be made by the HOA. The contract between the association and general contractor, that is a very sticky point. Should follow AIA or AGCDC. Why? Those two are documents, standardized contract documents between association or owners and contractors. They have been vetted in court for years. It is very well documented how those contracts works. Most of the contractors like using them. If you go with your own, there's a lot of stuff that you might be missing that this contract, they're already standardized, are there for you and have a lot of clauses that protect the association. It is very difficult for us to manage a job when you have on your contract that you're going to pay your contractor 15% out of the bat without even starting. We don't like that. And that puts you against the able, right? Puts you behind. We want to be ahead. We want to make sure that they work and they get paid for what they work. We don't like to pay up in advance. So those contracts help you a lot on those kind of situations. When things goes astray, those contracts will help you get back on track on it. Permit documents. The contractor is responsible to obtain the permit. We will provide the documents to them, but they hold the license. They are the contractor. They are the ones that will get the permit from the association. And then we'll get the construction. What are you going to expect when the construction starts? Noise, noise, and noise. We are going to hear chipping hammer from the penthouse all the way to the floor, where people are going to be complaining to you. People are going to be screaming at you. Expect noise on your job. It's the nature of the beast to fix concrete. You will hear noise. There's no way around that. Most of your contractor will help you out as much as they can. You typically will set up hours of work, of course, and they will help you out. They'll say, hey, we're going to be working on such and such section today. Make everybody knows, and they give you a 3-week look ahead for that. And you can at least give them a heads up for those owners if they want to go out or whatever. But expect a lot of noise, expect a lot of complaints, because yes, it will happen. The pool will be closed while we're working on that area. Yes, expect that to happen. Usually happens for some reason in summer, which I don't get it, but it always happens the same way. For more than you plan, you ended up there. Expect change on a job. It will happen. There is change. Something that you did not plan for, that you did not expect it, happen. It will happen. Feel comfortable with your engineer. Talk to them. Let them be reassuring to you that, yes, we're working through this and we're going to get it done. A guy like Daniel, a guy like Ben, when they're doing jobs on installing windows and all that, sometimes it's not even their fault. The supplier didn't provide the material. So what are we going to do? We ended up talking and say, how are we going to catch up? We're going to catch up this way, this day, that day. And we try to catch up to help you guys out. We are supposed to be a team working for you. Sometimes it doesn't work that way, but we are always trying to look for that team to move forward the project. It is a project. Things will not happen as expected, and there will be a lot of complaint and noise. And with that, guys, I think I'm 15 minutes ahead. Thank you for attending today. I talked a lot. We are Karins Engineering, structural engineering consultants since 1999. We got 9 offices around Florida. You can visit our website at karins.com and call us if you need us.
Okay,
Great.
awesome. Great amount of information. I know everybody can't take notes for all this, so we will be sending around the slides. Hector's approved the slides, and also that this was recorded so that you can review it. I did want to make a couple of comments on maintenance. I was a former vice president for GRS management, and one of the reasons why I went to work for them, having been in the industry for a while, was because every year they had an annual maintenance training meeting with all the engineers for all their properties, and they had about, oh gosh, 300 or 400, at the time. And they were very transparent. They asked their boards, to let them be a part of bid openings to learn what they are looking at or what you're looking at as an association to receive bids, training the maintenance engineers, to look around the property every day as they're doing their duties, in any way. It could be looking at the landscaping and come across a building issue. So to keep their eyes, because they are their eyes and ears for information that you may need to know before another inspection, professional inspection. I would encourage you to allow them to go to annual training and encourage to allow them to go to any meetings in the industry. After all, it's just a half a day or a couple hours or maybe an all-day affair that could be to your benefit. The other thing is when you're hiring, one of the things that we used to do is we used to really drill down on what projects have they worked on, what experience do they have, so that way you know what you're hiring. I'm not saying don't hire inexperienced or less experienced engineers. I'm just suggesting that if you got projects coming up and you happen to need a new person, get someone who's got some knowledge that can back you up from some real bona fide training. I cannot thank you enough, Hector, your company, for allowing you to do this, and I hope to do more with you. You have some other classes available. I wanted to acknowledge all the board members and tell them how much I appreciate your being on today, and thank you to the managers. Even though you're getting a CEU credit, you could have went somewhere else. So I really appreciate your participation. Thank you to all the sponsors. And I'll close with a few things that are coming up. I'm putting on some additional webinars coming up starting next week. Actually, I have a webinar on Monday, so look for that flyer on March 24th. I also have April 1st opening up with a different topic, kind of like Moshe's product, but wills, trusts, and incapacity planning. Again, I've got Dahlia Anise Esquire. She's an attorney that's decided to dedicate her practice to just that. Very knowledgeable and very affordable. Going forward in later April and early May, I've got Benjamin Moore coming in to speak about projects and painting techniques and so on, and things you need to know regarding that. May, for sure, I've got the paving lady coming in. She's going to be reviewing paving techniques. Her owner has got 30 years in the business, even though he looks like he's 12. We also have another certification coming up, but this time it's for homeowners associations. It's an 8-hour training. We're thinking of breaking it up or dedicating an entire day for that training. Also yesterday, I just launched the approval with Hector to begin Spanish board certification classes and other engineering courses that you're going to need. We've had a big request for that, so watch out for probably around June, July at the latest to start the Spanish series of CEU courses, as well as just board training. There's also a transparency law that was passed that Jane Boland is going to, as an attorney, address. And then in May, we're targeting May the 8th for presidents in the Palm Beach County area. We are putting on a President's Club of the Palm Beach County hurricane awareness, and we're going to have some city and county people involved in that. So look for all these flyers. I also have one last thing to mention is that J.R. Frazier company. They are experts in reserve studies and Sears studies, and they've got a different approach to a program or a webinar that they want to get a CEU credited for. But if not, we're still going to go on and continue and do the webinar sometime between May and June. So lots to look forward to. Again, I'm so happy about our astronauts returning. That's a great event that's going on here, and I just want to wish you all a nice weekend, and thank you again to everyone.
Hey,
See you
Peggy,
next time.
Peggy, those that, since we want to respect everyone's time, those that want to leave can leave, but I do have about 10 questions in the chat if Hector and Daniel want to stick around.
Of course.
Okay, great. Sounds awesome.
All right, so here we go, guys. Well, Peggy, there's one individual who's looking for a mold remediation vendor. You can see that in the Q&A. I'll let you answer that one privately.
Okay.
Next question, simple question. What type of equipment is used to search if any water leak I guess the question is, let's see, what type of equipment would be used to search if there are any water leaks 4 to 6 feet below the pool deck or floor pavers without opening up floors? Dan, do you or Hector have any suggestions for what they can do for checking for water leaks if they don't want to do any destructive testing?
So I'm assuming this is on grade, kind of a pool. And I'm sorry to say that I don't know any equipment that can look that deep without removing anything. I don't know any equipment, but I'll look for it and let you know if there's something.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So
it's nothing yet in the market that he can do something magic like that without removing, and see where the water coming in. So,
well, you do magic every day, Dan. You know that. So here, some buildings in South Florida have had to be vacated due to excessive damage. What is considered excessive damage? Who is responsible for initiating the process, and how does it start? Is an engineer responsible for reporting results to local authorities? Is it considered, could it be considered that they condemn a building, the local building department?
Once the structure is deteriorating, and typically it's an engineer that will tell you this, or the city official if they know about it, because someone made a call to them and they're concerned and they visit the building. Once the major structural elements are impacted, beams, columns, slabs, especially beams and columns are impacted, and is spread out, not necessarily one, but it's typically they will look for spread out kind of scenario, or one full elevation, right? If you have the first floor, you see that the columns on the first floor are bad, even though the rest is fine, they will try to avoid that, and will highly recommend having an engineer there, assuming it's the city that comes out first. We as an engineer, we will tell you, at least Karins Engineering will tell you first, you have this situation and I have to report it. So there's two ways that could go. Okay, you have the situation, let's work on it tomorrow. So we will get someone like Daniel, we'll get a couple of contractors, bid it out right away, let's fix this and move on it. Or if you decide to postpone, no matter what, we'll give you at least a week. If we don't hear anything from you, and I have done this like 5 times in my career, I'll send that out to the city official, because I am liable. The engineer is liable for any damage or anything that might happen on a building that is deteriorated. What can you consider to be deteriorated? Beams and columns are bad and they are spalling out. That means that you lost strength. It's not the same size. It's less size. So they're taking more strength, more load on a smaller area. That's what you have to think about when you're looking at the building.
the other thing, Hector, that I want to add it is, a lot of times associations call contractors to go fix structural issues without engineering on board. And I just want to be clear to all board members and property managers, contractors, they cannot perform any structural repair without the association has an engineering on board. Because contractor, you just follow the instructions from the engineering company, because they're going to be signing the inspections that we're going to be submitting to the city. So the right way to do it is, I always tell step one is to hire a structural engineering, then the contractor can come and perform the work. The other thing that I want to add it to the maintenance, what I see in all these buildings, especially when they have a planters, I would say the planters maintenance is the key. If your planter fail in a garage, it can cost the association 500, a million just in repair. So maintenance for planters, I would say, is the key. When you see any leak, any intrusion of water, please take care of the planters, because the planters can bring a big assessment to the condominium. And I see some buildings now, they start removing all these planters from the decks because they cause a lot of damage, and when you're talking is millions. This is not a $20,000 or $30,000 repair, especially if it's a PT cable. Forget it. It's going to cost you a lot of money. So please pay attention to the planters. The other thing the party was making, when they select contractors, always interview at least 3 contractors before do you choose. Always ask the contractors the job that you perform, that you do it in-house or you bring subcontractors. So because it's different, when you hire people in-house, when they come and do the work, they're going to do for us, I would say it's going to be a better quality work. And instead of you hire a contractor that is going to beat somebody else to do a sub work, because you never know too, the employees from the subs, they are in the workers' comp. If it's any accident happen there at the job site, the building, he can get in some legal issues. And always ask the contractors about bonds. Bonds is really important too, to make sure that they're going to provide a bond to the association, so that way, they can finish the job in the time frame, and they have to follow up the specifications from the engineering company.
Thank you, Dan. Dan, while we're on that, I got one. How often do you recommend repainting a building?
I would say, now it's crazy how supply companies, they come with these crazy warranties, 10, 15, but my recommendation, if you are 3 miles away from the ocean, I would say you have to take care of your buildings every 7 years. No matter what, if your building is still looking good, paint it every 7 years. And the other thing that I want to add it, when you do a concrete restoration, remember, for concrete restoration is a 5-year warranty. So, make sure that after you finish your concrete restoration, before the 5 years, hire an engineering company to go back to your building to respect, all the work that they did for your concrete restoration before the 5-year pass. So that way, you still have warranty if you see any issues there. So the contractor has to go back there and fix it and no charge to the association.
All right. I got a couple more. I recently heard that some insurance companies are not renewing policies if the buildings have Federal Pacific electrical panels due to fire risk and require the panels to be replaced. What do you know about this? I would say contact the insurance company, guys and girls. Does anybody else have any feedback on that?
I don't.
Okay, so I would say to this anonymous attendee to please contact their insurance company or their agent. If a condominium association does not have a full-time maintenance staff, should the property manager take on the duties of inspection, etc., that were mentioned today?
They can if they want to, but usually associations have their own board. You can give that as an advice to the board, or they have the construction committee, right? Those are the engineers that they've been engineers for 40 years, that they know everything about construction, and they can take those pictures if they have that kind of committee. Either the board, board or any committee should take that role. If the property manager can just walk the building because it's a small building, then fine. But it's a helpful event to do.
All right, last question. Does anybody have any recommendations for water leak software?
Water leak software. It depends on what you're talking about because there are different kind of software for different kind of scenarios, right?
So Hector, if you take a look at the Q&A, there's someone in there that asked that question. I won't mention the name on this recording here, but go in there, check that out if you want to answer them directly.
Okay.
Peggy, Dan, Hector, Daniel, that's all I got for everybody here that's left. Always a pleasure being the moderator, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. Thank you,
Thank
Peggy.
you.